This is the 2021 Ford Transit cargo van, and if you can see it behind me, this thing is an absolute beast. And the reason why, this is the high roof and it's also the extended length. So 148 wheelbase and it goes a little bit further. So it's kind of crazy. And when it comes down to the Transit, it's got a lot of different options that are available. You've got a low roof, a medium roof, or the high roof in a 130 or 148 wheelbase, and there are a ton of options in between. Now, one of the cool things about the Transit is that you've seen them all over the place. People are using them for business. If you've got a delivery company, works incredible. But what happens if you want something a little bit different? Like, I don't know, maybe you wanted to have a tiny house on wheels? All sorts of incredible things that you can do with this thing. If you enjoy the content, give it a thumbs up, but let's dive into it, have a little bit of fun, and see what the 2021 Transit van is all about. Alright, now taking a peek under the hood. So inside of the Transit van, you've got two different engine choices that are available. The one that we're looking at, it's got just the regular 3.5 liter engine in it. Now when it comes down to it from a power perspective, the 3.5 liter engine is going to push out 275 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. Now the other option is an EcoBoost engine. It's the same 3.5 liter setup, but it's going to be turbocharged instead. That specific van, that specific engine is going to be able to push out 306 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. So definitely a benefit, especially if you're going to be towing with this thing or if you're going to be doing any sort of a conversion. You're obviously going to be using a little bit more fuel up inside of the 3.5 EcoBoost, but if your upfitting needs it or if your business requires the extra power, just knowing that it's available there as an option. Now, one other thing about this one specifically, it does have another package that's included, and that package is the upfitter. So we've got a modified vehicle wiring system, there's dual batteries, larger center console, which we're going to see inside, and a different fuse panel as well. So that's one of the nice things, is that if you are going to be doing upfitting in this thing, you've got the capabilities to do that. You can order some things directly from the factory. So things like dual batteries, dual alternators, things like that. So it's really, really cool to know that you've got that flexibility. From a towing perspective, if you're going to be towing anything else in the vehicle, I 100% recommend getting the tow package from the factory. It works nicely. You've got your 4 7-pin wiring harnesses. You've also got the ability to add in an electronic braking, so a trailer brake controller if your trailer's got it. Now, looking at the vehicle itself, you've got the ability to get it in either rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So all-wheel drive is super beneficial, especially if you're going to be using it during the winter time, so just a little bit of extra traction there. But from a towing perspective, in the rear-wheel drive, depending on your configuration, you're going to be hovering around 6,400 pound max towing. With the all-wheel drive, that gets bumped up to about 6,900 pounds instead. So take that into account. Now, the overall towing and payload and things like that, it's all going to be affected by what else you throw inside of this thing. So definitely something to consider. Now, when it comes down to standard technology inside of this thing out back, as you can see, the only thing there is that tiny little camera. So that's a backup camera there. Now, this one does not have the reverse sensing system. But one thing to consider is that if you're getting the Transit van, I 100% recommend one of two things. Either getting the larger Sync3 screen, so this productivity screen instead, because when we throw the vehicle into reverse, we're going to be able to see that larger backup camera here, or get the reverse sensing system. So huge benefits of doing that. So if you're backing up without the reverse sensing system, it gets a little bit tight. If you don't have that larger productivity screen, when you go to back up, it's going to be on a tiny 4-inch screen, so it's next to impossible to see what's actually going on behind you. So it's essentially going to be one or the other. I say either get the reverse sensing system or that larger screen. Ideally get both, especially if you're going to be using this thing commercially, guys. To put the extra cash in, trust me on this one, it absolutely is going to end up making a difference. Now, this thing is the Transit 250, so it is a little bit of a beast. There's one that's slightly smaller curb weight, that's the Transit 150, or you can go a little bit bigger with the 350, either single or dually for the rear wheels there. So really depending on what you need. Now, one of the nice things is that we also have the ability to extend the doors out a little bit more if we need to. Look at that. Super useful, especially if you're loading things in, if you're using this thing as a camper, etc. Now, one thing to note, the one that we're looking at here has heavy-duty flooring. So this flooring is not going to come standard, but it is available as an option. You can get it with just the flooring, or you can get finished sidewalls there as well. That finished sidewalls with the finished flooring is going to be known as the interior upgrade package. But depending on what you're doing with it, you may not need it. Now, if you don't get that flooring, it's literally going to look like that on the bottom there. So definitely something to take into account there. Okay, next up, let's take a peek at the dimensions of the vehicle as well. Now, a couple things, as I mentioned, this is the 148 wheelbase and it's the extended length. That's why this thing is so long. You might not need the extended length. Maybe you only need the regular length of the 130 wheelbase, but ton of options. Check down in the description below for a direct link to the Ford guides that'll kind of talk you through this process there as well. But as you can see, a ton of spacing inside of this thing. Now let's hop inside for a second here. Now, as I mentioned, I'm 6 feet tall. And look at this, like this is kind of ridiculous. I still have a ton of headspace. So depending on what you're planning on doing from an upfitting perspective, I'd absolutely recommend looking at that high roof. So one of the big benefits of doing that is maybe you're gonna convert the van into a sleeper. You're gonna have a ton more space, easier for shower installations and things like that. Now, if you're a car, let's say if you're gonna be transporting windows and doors and things like that, now getting the high roof also could be beneficial. But that's something you're gonna have to take into account is where are you bringing the vehicle? If you're going underground, this might be a little bit challenging with the high roof. You might need to look at the medium or the low roof instead. But we've got a ton of space and a ton of flexibility inside of this thing. So as you can see there's lots of things that we can potentially do, but really it's the sky's the limit. What is your imagination like? So looking here, this is going to come standard. We do have a sliding door. There is an option for a power sliding door there as well, depending on how you build your vehicle out. But look at this. This thing is a beast. Now, taking a peek at the mirror for just a second here. So this is the short arm power heated mirror. So this is not, the heating part of it is not going to come standard. But if you're gonna be doing any sort of winter driving, I absolutely recommend paying the extra couple $100 to get the power heated mirrors. Now these are the short arm. There is an option for the long arm instead, which would extend out a little bit more. So again, it really depends on, are you towing anything? Do you need that extra visual, yes or no? And again, it's also going to depend on how do you have the rest of the van configured. Like I said, at a very minimum, you should absolutely consider getting the reverse sensing system, but also the larger Sync3 screen in the middle there. Now looking along the driver's side door, this is a cargo van, so there's not a ton of stuff inside of this thing. It's really use your imagination for the upfitting possibilities. But standard, as you can see there, we've got the ability to adjust our windows. We've got a little holder there. Now it does say no phones. Next up, we've got two little switches there. So that plus and minus button, those are gonna be the dimmer switches for that cluster screen. So that's gonna make it brighter or darker depending on your preference. And then we've got a selector switch to figure out what's going on with our running lamps. All the way to the left is off, all the way to the right is auto. Honestly, guys, I really only recommend keeping the auto setting, and the big reason why is because it's automatically going to flip you to the daytime or the nighttime running lamps depending on how bright it is outside. If you need the lights permanently on, you've got the capabilities to do that as well, but really I recommend either off or the auto setting there. As we start to move down a tiny little bit, this is our auto engine start stop, so this is the one that's potentially going to kill power to the engine when we're stopped. Now, one of the nice things about the Transit is that you do have the ability to factory order this so that the auto start stop is completely deleted, so you never have to worry about it. We've got our parking brake, so electronic parking brake, little storage area down there, and if we ever need to pop the hood, we've got the ability to just crank on this in order to open it up. Now, filling up on gas in this thing is a very straightforward process. So as you can see, just along our driver's door, it's actually in a little bit of an awkward spot. So we've got a little cutout there. So what we're gonna do, pop the door open. As you can see, there's a little cover there. We're just gonna pull it out, and then we've just got a capless system. So you're just gonna insert your hose, fill up. Once you're good, you're just gonna click it back, and then it's gonna lock into place. Now, a couple of things to note is that Transit vans, you are E85 capable as well. Canada, guys, I think we're pretty much out of luck there. I don't know of any E85 stations, but if you can find one, you've got E85 capabilities there. Otherwise, you're just going to be a regular 87 octane inside of this thing. Adjusting the driver's seat inside of the Transit is going to depend on what kind of seat you've got. So we've got our standard cloth seats inside of this thing. There is the option for a 10-way power driver and passenger seat. So depending on what your budget is, you've got some options there. There also is an ability in order to get the seats swiveled. So you can literally have them flip around 180 degrees to face the back as well. So you've got a ton of options there. Now, when it comes down to it, because we're in the two-way adjustable, we can literally go forwards and backwards with it, and that's it. So in order to be able to adjust the seat very straightforward, just in between our legs, there's a lever. We can crank that. We can go forwards and backwards with it. Once you found your perfect position, let it go, and you're set to go. Now, one thing, we do have the ability to adjust the backrest as well. So in order to adjust the backrest, you're just going to crank the lever just off to the side, and we can move that forwards or backwards as we'd like to. Same thing, snap, let it go, and you're set to go. In order to adjust the steering wheel just in between our legs there in the middle of the steering column, we're just going to crank that lever down. Boom, and telescopic wheel, so we can pull the wheel towards us, we can push it away, we can lift it up and down. Once you've got that perfect position, you're just gonna take that lever, crank it back up into place, and you're set to go. Now this is the Sync3 screen, the larger screen, and this is the reason why I absolutely recommend getting this larger screen. I'm gonna throw the vehicle into reverse for a second. I want you to watch something. Look at that. The backup camera is going to show up there. Now, when you look at just the regular screen that comes inside of this thing, it's 4 inches. You can literally barely make it out. Like, it's actually kind of laughable. So guys, I really don't recommend getting the smaller screen. Like, always pay the extra couple bucks. You've got a couple different options there. You can get just this basic screen layout. There is the option to get it with factory navigation as well. But one of the nice things is that this thing does support Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So we can use Google Maps, we can use Apple Maps, or we can use Waze directly through this middle screen. So that in and of itself is absolutely worth the investment. Now, if for whatever reason you're not on this home screen, all you're gonna do is just press the home button at the very top there, and that's gonna bring you back to this home screen. Now, this one specifically does not have the factory navigation. If it did, the button would show up just in between these two. The layout of the screen would also be different. That compass would be gone. This would be moved over there, and there would be a little map there as well. So again, whether you get factory navigation is really going to depend on you. If you're doing a lot of travel between Canada and the US, or areas where you might hit roaming, it might make sense to look at the factory navigation. Now, when it comes down to the screen itself, it's very straightforward. Starting off in our audio settings in the very bottom, we've got a couple different things we can do. So looking at sources, we've got AM, FM, Sirius XM, and then our Bluetooth as well. If we had a USB memory stick with MP3 files on it, we'd have the ability to plug that into a USB port, and then that would show up. If one of my phones was connected, I would also have my phone audio, and if I had any radio apps installed, so things like LiveX Live, Spotify, etc., would all work directly through this middle screen. So very straightforward. We can easily switch between sources. We can tune using this, or we've got the ability to tune using our voice by pressing the button on the steering wheel. We've also got the ability to direct tune. So we can type in a station, we just hit enter, and it's changed it to the station for us. Now, this is the stock sound system. Let's crank it for a second and see how it sounds. Okay, that is not bad at all for a van. Like, the sound is amazing. It's not a Bang & Olufsen amazing sound, but it's gonna work for the majority of people. Now, if you've changed to a station, you wanna save it, all you're gonna do is press and hold, and as you can see there, it saved it. Now, one of the nice things about these presets is that we can have a mix of AM, FM, Sirius XM, etc., all on the same preset pages. Now, when it comes down to adding a phone, it's a very straightforward process. So just by pressing the phone button there, we've got the ability to add a phone in. We're gonna start off on the iPhone side of things. So what you're gonna do is just make sure that your phone's unlocked, and you're just gonna make sure that your Bluetooth is turned on. Okay, and then let's watch on the bottom of the screen there. After we hit add phone,
search for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
Okay, so as you can see there, Ford Transit's shown up, and we're just gonna press that button.
Confirm that the pin displayed on Sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Okay, so we just wanna make sure that the pins match up, and in this case they do, so we're just gonna hit pair on the phone and yes on the screen.
For your safety, please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
All right, so a couple other things to see. As you can see there, it's asking us, do I want to allow contacts and favorites to sync? Yeah, I'm connecting my phone so that my contacts will sync up, so I want to make sure I hit allow there. Now, on the screen, we've got a couple of different options. So as you can see there, we've got 911 Assist and we've got Contact Download. So 911 Assist, I absolutely recommend turning that one on. And the big reason why is because if the vehicle senses a collision, it's automatically going to dial 911 for you. Automatic contact download, when the phone is connected, if there's a new contact, it'll download it to the vehicle. I do recommend keeping that one turned on. But as you can see, I'm now connected. I've got my calls, contacts, so I can change phones, so useful if you've got multiple phones in the vehicle. You can easily switch between whoever's is coming on Bluetooth. We can go do not disturb, and we can also use Siri. So that's a really, really cool thing. Now, I also had mentioned earlier that you've got the ability to use certain apps directly through this middle screen. So as you can see, we've got LiveX Live, which is essentially, it's like Spotify, it's a radio app, and that's gonna work directly through the middle screen there. So really cool to know that we've got the ability to do that. Now, if we want to set up Apple CarPlay, it's a very straightforward process. Literally all we're going to do, we're going to take a USB cable and we're going to plug it into any of the available ports. Bam, set. And we're just going to take the opposite end of that cable and we're literally just going to plug it into the phone. So 1 and 2, watch this. Oh. So Apple CarPlay lets you use your phone in a way that allows you to stay focused on the road. Yes, we have to continue there. If you want to be able to use CarPlay, you also do have to agree to this. Now watch what happens. We are fully connected there. Like, Look at how amazing that is. So we're fully connected, but if we see there, so it's also asking me, do I want to allow CarPlay with Sync3 while my phone is locked? Yeah, I want to make sure that I can use CarPlay when my phone is actually locked, so we're just going to hit allow, and I am now connected. We've got my phone, my music, my messages, and a number of other things. Now, remember what I was telling you, you can use Google Maps or Apple Maps directly through this middle screen. Maybe you'd prefer to use the Waze app instead. So if you don't have factory navigation, guys, don't worry about it. You can use any of these different maps directly through this middle screen. Now, one of the cool things about Apple CarPlay side of things is that we've also got the ability to adjust things and tweak things a little bit. So if we go to General, we can go to CarPlay. We've got my car connected there, and we can now customize the screen. So we're on the home screen there, but I don't know, maybe let's say if you prefer to use Google Maps, or maybe you prefer to use Waze more so. So all you're going to do is drag it to the top, and as you can see, it's just automatically downloaded it, it's moved it to the front for us. So we can kind of adjust these things, like if you're never going to use Zoom or WhatsApp, etc., you can completely remove them from the tray. You can adjust as you'd like to, and moving your more popular apps front to back. Now, one of the interesting things is, let's say if you kind of mess up in the order, you can bring it back to a default. All you're going to do is hit reset layout, and that's just going to bring you back to that default layout instead. So we go back home, as you can see, we are now there. Now, one of the interesting things is that we've also got the ability to use the radio while we're also connected to CarPlay. So really, really cool. Now, if you ever need to get back to the home screen, we're just going to hit the forward button there. And as you can see, we've got my phone. Maps is now there because my phone has a few map applications. So we've got the ability to use that, which is kind of cool. We can jump back into CarPlay there. But what happens if you want to have your phone connected to charge up, but you don't need CarPlay connected? All you're going to do is go to CarPlay Preferences, or if you're on the home screen there, you just go to Settings, and then you just scroll across until you see Apple CarPlay. We can remove my phone, or we can just temporarily disable CarPlay. So really, really cool. As you can see there, my phone is charging, but it's not connected through CarPlay, but we can still go to nav and things like that, which is kind of cool. I love the fact that we've got that flexibility and that capability. Now, if we ever need to remove a phone from the vehicle, it's also very straightforward. All we're going to do is go to Phone. We're going to go View Devices. We've got my phone. We can either disconnect it or we can completely remove it. So it's pretty straightforward, and that's how you work Apple CarPlay inside of the Transit. Now, setting up Android Auto is the exact same process as what we saw on the iPhone side of things. So we're just going to take a USB cable. We're going to plug it into any of the available ports. Boom. We're just going to take that opposite end of the cable. We're going to plug our phone in and watch what happens. Oh, Android Auto. So all we have to do is unlock to continue. So phone is unlocked. We're just going to hit continue. Now, Android Auto would like to turn on Bluetooth and allow my car to access and display notifications. Yeah, we're just going to hit next. Watch this. Okay, now interesting side of things. Now this does happen occasionally. I've noticed it just on the Android Auto side of things, not on the CarPlay side. But if you ever get this message where it's saying it can't connect, you're just gonna hit cancel and watch this. Boom, it's connected us. I have no idea why that happens, but for whatever reason it does. So if you ever run into that issue where it's kind of got you in a weird loop on Android Auto, just hit the cancel button on your phone and it's gonna automatically connect you. Don't know why it is, it's just on the Android side of things as I was mentioning, but exactly what we saw with the Apple CarPlay side of things, we can use Google Maps. If I had Waze installed, we'd be able to use that through this middle screen as well. We've got my phone, we've got some basic settings, notification center, and we can also use Google Assistant, which is kind of neat. Now, very similar to what we saw to the Apple side of things. So on our phone, if we search for Android Auto, we've got the ability to hop into Android Auto and look at a few different things. So we can tweak some notifications, permissions, and change things as a default, and a number of other things. Now, if for whatever reason, let's say if your favorite app is not showing on this middle screen, you want to make sure that your Android Auto is up to date. You want to make sure that your system software is up to date. So you've got the latest version running. On top of that, you want to make sure that the app that you're using is also up to date, because if everything's not up to date, it won't necessarily work directly through this middle screen. So definitely something to think of there. Just make sure that you always keep your phones up to date. Now, when it comes down to it, if we ever need to get back to that home screen, we just hit the forward sync, and the same thing. We can make a phone call if we've got it. We can look at our maps. We can jump back into Android Auto, or if we're on the home screen, we can jump into our preferences. And the same thing is what we saw on the iPhone side of things. We can disable Android Auto, which means that I'm not using Android Auto, but my phone is charging. So that's really cool. Or we can completely remove the phone from Android Auto. And in order to be able to remove it from the vehicle, we can view devices. We've got my iPhone and then the Galaxy. We can either disconnect, make it a favorite, or we can completely remove it from the vehicle. So that phone is now fully disconnected, but if you look there, we are still charging up. And that is how you add a phone to the vehicle. Looking at some basic settings, so very straightforward. Starting off with our sound settings, we can tweak out our treble, mid-range, bass, speed compensated volume, and then our occupancy mode. So if all seats are occupied or just the driver. Clock. So we can go to some basic clock settings, but we can either go to settings and clock, or on the home screen, we can just press the clock at the very top, and that's going to launch us into this. So we can go, so as of right now, we're obviously on the military time, but we can change hours, change minutes, go between AM or PM, or we can switch between that 12-hour or the 12-hour or the 24-hour mode instead. Now, if you're traveling West Coast, East Coast, etc., you also can reset the clock to the GPS time as well. So that's one of the cool things. You don't manually have to press up and down. You just hit reset clock, and it's automatically going to change the clock to wherever the vehicle is physically located. Next up, we've got Bluetooth, so we can turn Bluetooth off completely. We can add in other devices, or we can view the connected Bluetooth devices. So this is one of the areas that we would go if we wanted to enable a Bluetooth-enabled MP3 player. We've got phones, so we've got my phone fully connected there. If we want to, we can disconnect it or we can remove it. I'm actually going to reconnect it just for a little bit later on in the video there, so I'm connected again. Next up, we've got radio. So radio, we've got our HD radio, radio text, and our preset pages. Always recommend on the preset pages, give it the maximum, so 6 pages there, and I'll show you why. So if we look, this is the, oh, they'll love this song. Squirrel. All right, so this is the radio text in the back there. It lets us know what song is playing. But look at this. We updated it to 6 pages, so now we've got 30 individual presets. So really, really cool if you're a heavy user of SiriusXM and you want to kind of tweak things out as you go. Now, one of the interesting things here, so entertainment sources, my phone is connected so we can listen to my phone audio, or we've got LiveX Live there again, so that radio app. If we go to SiriusXM for a second, so I've tweaked the settings. If we go back to our setting, all of a sudden it's SiriusXM. So we can tweak a few things on Sirius now. We can change out, so if we've got a parental lock, we can set that up. We can do a number of other things. So we can lock out certain channels, we can have channels skipped and things like that. So if you've got certain stations that you just don't want to listen to, you've got the ability to lock that one out. Moving back to audio again, and let's tweak it back and let's change it back to the FM. As you can see, it's moved us back to the radio instead. Mobile apps, some of them will work through USB, some of them will work over Bluetooth. You've got a choice of which ones will work. There we go. Boom, there we go, okay. So as you can see there, we've got LiveX Live for different app settings. Moving into our general settings now. General settings, we can go between English, Spanish, or French, Celsius, Fahrenheit, kilometers, or miles. The beeping that we're getting here, if that beeping drives you crazy, you can turn it off. Automatic system updates, I always recommend keeping that one turned on. And the big reason why is because the vehicle will, if it senses an update's available, it'll automatically update as well. So you can do a scan for an update if you want to, but I always recommend keeping that one turned on. And when you do, also make sure that you're connected to a Wi-Fi network at home. So Wi-Fi, you would just connect there, or you can connect to a data-only device, your cell phone, whatever the case may be. Into our general settings again, the other one to point out, so we've got our reset there. So we can either do Forward Pass reset or a master reset. So with the Forward Pass app, essentially the vehicle was going to act as a wireless hotspot. So the Forward Pass app is going to be able to do a couple things for the vehicle. You need it installed on your iPhone or Android device. And if for whatever reason Forward Pass is giving you issues, you can reset that. If the vehicle screen is giving you issues, or if you're selling it, you want to bring it back to factory defaults, you're just going to go master reset. And that's going to be the basics of the general settings. 911 assist, we've already gone over that one. Wi-Fi and automatic updates, same thing. We want to make sure that we've got automatic updates on, and our Wi-Fi, we want to make sure we're connected to a home Wi-Fi network, or if we're on the go, just connect to a publicly available Wi-Fi network to check for updates. Forward Pass Connect, as I mentioned, the vehicle can be used as a wireless hotspot. You do need to have a data-only plan through your cell phone provider in order to be able to do that. Apple CarPlay, my phone is still connected through CarPlay, so if I remove it, watch what happens. CarPlay is now gone. Now, if I plug my phone back in through a USB, that CarPlay setting is going to come up again. Looking at some vehicle settings now. So a few different options. So we've got our basic camera settings and then our serial number. Display mode. So this thing is nice, but for some people you might find it a little bit too bright. So you can turn the display off if you'd like to. Touch to bring it back to life. Or you can go to a calming screen instead, where it's just going to show the time and the date. Same thing, press to bring it back to life again. Moving into our settings and back to the display. Now this is the daytime mode for the vehicle. Now one of the nice things is that you can permanently lock it in the daytime. You can change it to the nighttime as well, so that it's always the nighttime mode. So it's really a matter of preference, but I love this blue, so I would personally always have it on the blue there. The auto mode is going to switch between the daytime or the nighttime mode depending on how bright it is outside. So really a matter of preference. You've got the ability to adjust the brightness if you want to, or you can change the background. Voice control, a few different things there. I want you to listen to something for a second. 97.7.
Tuning to FM 97.7.
Okay, so it's changed radio stations for us, and we got a message letting us know that it was going to do that. With the advanced mode, we won't get as many notifications, so listen to this now. 94.9. Hey, we didn't get the confirmation, but it's changed the station. So if you don't want as many prompts, just make sure advanced mode's turned on. Phone confirmation, do you want to call such and such person, yes or no? And then the voice command list, when we press the voice command button on the steering wheel, this is the command list. So whether or not that one comes on depends on whether or not you have that toggled on or off. Last one is our valet mode. So with valet mode, we've got the ability to enter in a 4-digit number, which is going to lock out that screen. So I'll show you what that looks like. Enter something difficult like 0000. Now, as you can see there, we're fully locked out. So I can turn the van off, I can turn it back on. This is not going to change until I re-enter that 4-digit number. Use something challenging, not 0000, but it's kind of nice to know that we've got the capabilities to do that. Now, as we start to move down the screen a little bit, so a few things to point out. Looking, we've got our volume rocker. So we can easily adjust our volume there. We can turn the audio on or off. On the far right side, we've got the ability to manually tune and change the station if we want to. This, honestly, it's old school. It's probably one of the least efficient ways to do it because we can either press direct tune or we can press the voice command button on the steering wheel in order to change stations that way. As we start to move across, we've got a hotkey for our audio settings, so pull up the ability to change treble, mid-range, bass, hotkey to press to turn that away. We've got the ability to change between radio stations, we can play or pause, and we've got the ability to either change it to the calming screen, kill the screen power completely, or we can bring it back to life again. Moving down a little bit more, as you can see there, we've got the ability to adjust our climate. So we've got our fan control, we can turn the climate on or off, we can have it go to our windshield face or feet, air circulation, and we've also got our air conditioning. And then you can also select what's going on with the temperature inside of the vehicle as well. Moving down, we do have our 4-way blinkers, so we can easily turn that one on or off. So you can see there's a little warning message just saying that our fuel level is a little low. If you ever get a message on the screen, just press this OK button, and boom, that'll just go away. As you can see there, we do have a USB port as well as our traditional cigarette lighter adapter. Now moving off to the left a little bit, so we've got a few different things. First one are going to be our drive mode. So we've got the ability to switch between either normal, eco, slippery, or our tow haul mode. So really dependent on what you're doing with the vehicle. And from there, we've also got the ability to turn our traction control on or off by pressing this button. Moving down a little bit, so as you can see there, we've got a few cup holders, we've got a little bit of storage as well, and we've also got our shifter. So we've got our park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then our M for our manual mode. So looking along the side, as you can see, we've got a plus or minus button to be able to change out gears if we wanted to go that route. But one of the interesting things, we can just drop into the manual mode to be able to change gears. If we're not in the manual mode, we can still change gears, but what'll happen is in the M mode, it's going to hold that gear for a little bit longer. So depending on how much you enjoy changing gears out, I normally would recommend just keeping it in your regular drive mode instead. Now, one thing to point out is that this thing, as you can see there, does have the integrated brake controller. So if your trailer has braking, you've got the capabilities to have that directly from the factory. So we've got our braking there, plus and minus, and this one also does have the auxiliary upfitter switches. So super useful if you're going to be wiring things in. You can kind of turn those on or off as necessary. Next up, let's take a peek at the steering wheel. So, a few things about this one is that it does not have adaptive cruise control. It is just your standard cruise. I do recommend, honestly guys, check out the adaptive cruise control if you've never seen it before. The adaptive cruise control is essentially a set it and forget it cruise. But as I mentioned, this specific one does not have adaptive, just your regular cruise. So we've got the ability to turn the cruise control system on. Once you've got that perfect speed that you'd like to, you're gonna either raise this up or lower it down in order to be able to set your speed. And then you can either raise it up or decrease either 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time. You can cancel the cruise, or let's say if you have to hit the brake, you can just hit resume in order to bring you back up to your set speed. Moving down a tiny little bit, we've got the ability to tweak our volume, so we can either turn that up or down, or we can mute it completely. So a few things, we're gonna start off along the bottom right-hand side there. So along the right, we've got the ability to change between stations or songs, and we've also got the ability to either hang up or answer a phone call. Now this one is going to be our voice command button, and that's going to be for that screen. So watch what happens there. We press the button, 97.7. So it gives us the ability to change radio stations by using our voice. If we had factory navigation, we'd be able to use that as well. And so tons of flexibility and tons of flexibility there. Now, one of the interesting things is that if we were connected through either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, this would either work as our Google Assistant or as Siri. So that's definitely something to consider there as well. Next up, we've got a series of buttons. Now, these buttons along the side there are going to change out what's going on with that little cluster screen there. So this is going to be our basic up and down, our menu button, and then our basic back button. So definitely, so take those ones into account as we scroll through. I'm just going to zoom in a tiny little bit for you. Okay, there we go. So as you can see there, starting off, let's go to my view. Okay, so we'll start off on the trip counter there. So we've got our basic trip counter. If you ever need to reset that, all you're gonna do is press and hold OK on the steering wheel, 1, 2, and 3. And as you can see, it's now reset our values for us. And we can press this menu button in order to bring up some things, different things. So we've got trip 1 and 2. We can reset individual values, or we can configure the view. So we've got a few different things that are showing. So again, really a matter of preference, what ends up showing there. Moving down, we've got our speed. So again, that is because we've selected what's going on there with the My View. We can go to digital speedometer, fuel economy, or trip screen, or a calming screen instead. So you've got the flexibility to tweak what's going on in each one of these things. Now, driver assistance settings. We've got some different settings that are available. Pre-collision assist, if the vehicle senses an oncoming, a potential collision, I should say, it's automatically and actively going to brake for us as long as this system's turned on. So I definitely recommend keeping it turned on. Moving back, we've got our lane keeping system. So lane keeping system works 3 different ways. Way number 1 is the alert. So if you start to veer over into a lane without signaling, it's going to shake the steering wheel, almost as if you're running over rumble pavement. The aid is actually going to recenter you and pull you back into your lane, and the alert and the aid will do both. So it's going to shake the steering wheel, but it's also going to recenter you and pull you back into your lane. So definitely recommend keeping that one on. The intensity is going to be the intensity of that shake, so either a high, normal, or a low. And we've also got sensitivity as well, so either a normal or increased. Driver alert, if we get too many notifications because we're trying to tweaking lanes without signaling, we're going to get a message letting us know we should probably rest. We've got, as you can see there, different audio sources, so we can press the steering wheel button again, so a button along the side in order to change between AM, FM, Sirius XM, your phone, and as I mentioned, if you've got a USB stick with MP3s, you'd be able to use those as well, and that would show up as a source. Moving down, we've got my phone, so by pressing this button again, we've got the ability to look at my calls, incoming calls, we can look at outgoing, missed calls, etc. Moving down, we've got some basic settings now, so what we're going to do is press that hot menu button. Basic information, so we've got our driver alert, so how many alerts have we had? Tire pressure, those are off a teeny little bit, gonna have to look at that. And then we've also got the oil life. So oil life, if we end up changing oil ourselves, all we're going to do is press and hold the OK button in order to be able to reset that. Moving down, we've got our display, so we can change between English, Spanish, or French, liters per 100, miles per gallon, Celsius, Fahrenheit, etc. Some driver assistance settings, so we've got, again, pre-collision assist or a driver alert, so it's just a different way to get there. Basic vehicle settings, so we've got our chimes. Let's go back and move down into our lighting. So we've got our auto high beam. So one of the nice things is, could we use this stick in order to flash our high beams? Yeah, absolutely. But with the auto high beam setting, what that's going to do is if it's too dark out, it's automatically going to turn on our high beams for us. And if it senses an oncoming vehicle, it's automatically going to dim them, turn them off, and then once that car's past us, it's going to bring them right back on again. So definitely recommend doing that. The auto lamp delay, when we lock the van, do the lights stay on for 10, 20, 120 seconds, or do they just turn off automatically? Our locks, we've got auto unlock, our auto lock, which is kind of neat. We've got our feedback, mislock chirp, and then our global unlock as well. So the auto lock and unlock, which kind of neat. So if the vehicle is going past a certain speed, it's automatically going to lock the doors if you haven't done that already. So definitely recommend keeping all of these things on. The feedback chirp, so that's an interesting one. So the feedback there is if you don't have all of the doors shut properly and you go to lock, you're going to get a chirp letting you know that that's the case. Now, remote start. So on the fob itself, there isn't remote start on the fob. So if we take a look there, you can just kind of make it out, boom, but there is no remote start on the fob. Now, one of the nice things about having Ford Pass Connect installed on your phone is that you would have the ability to remote start directly through your cell phone, which is kind of nice. So with remote start, you can have it so the system doesn't work whatsoever, but if you're remote starting, what happens? Climate control, is it going to let the vehicle determine what the cabin temperature should be, or is it going to be based off of your last setting? Does it last for 5, 10, or 15 minutes? And move back, and we've also got the trailer brake controller as well, so we've got different trailer modes. And then we've got our wipers. So courtesy wipe, what happens with the courtesy wipe is if you use your wipers, it's gonna go and then it'll take a second and then it's gonna wipe one more time. So it just gets rid of any potential excess water that you may have on the windshield. And then we've also got the rain sensing wipers. So definitely recommend keeping that one on because it's automatically going to flip the wipers on depending on how much water is hitting that windshield. Basics of the vehicle, and I think that actually might be it. So we've got our settings, trip, my view, etc. So that is going to be the basics of that screen. Now a couple other things to point out along the side. As you can see there, we've got the ability to flash our high beams if we'd like to. Now one thing to note with us on the auto setting there, we won't be able to, the auto or the off setting, we won't be able to permanently lock our high beams. We do need to flip over to the on mode instead. And as you can see there, we can just flip in order to be able to lock our high beams on permanently. So definitely something to note. We either need to be on the on setting for that to happen. Now, other thing to point out, along our left turning stick, we've got a little button there. That's going to be for our lane keeping system. So lane keeping, lane centering. We can turn that one on or off, and we know it's on because, well, the message is going to come up, but there's a little car in between lanes there. So we know that it's on. Now, the system itself doesn't actually activate until we hit about 60 kilometers an hour. I think it's actually 62 kilometers an hour or higher, and that system will actually turn on to keep us in our lane. Along the right-hand stick, so a few things to point out there. This one does have rain sensing wipers, so this is going to give you the ability to change how sensitive it is to that rain hitting the windshield. We simply pull towards us in order to be able to turn on those wipers. Look at that, so crazy. And that's going to be the basics of the steering wheel and this cluster screen. Now as we start to move overhead, so a couple things to point out there. So as you can see, this specific one doesn't really have too much else added to it. But if we look, we've got the ability to pull down our visor. Now this specific one does not have the mirror. You can add that on from the factory. We can pull this thing out and it's locked into place there. But as you can see, it does cover up the side window there. Boom, lock that back up. And a couple other things to point out. This is going to be our cabin light controls. So we've got the ability to have our cabin lights come on whenever the doors are open. Watch this. Boom, cabin lights are on. This is going to have the cabin lights on permanently, and this is going to have the cabin lights never come on whatsoever. So you got a couple of options and a little bit of flexibility. And that is going to be the basics of the vehicle. And there we go. Well, folks, that was a look at the 2021 Ford Transit. What did you think? If you're contemplating getting one of these things, drop down in the description below and kind of share with me what you're thinking, and I'll bounce some ideas off of you as well. If you enjoyed the content, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing and sharing it with your social network. But until I see you next time, make sure you stay safe. This is the Transit 250, so a little bit of a heavier car. Now, one of the really cool things about the Transit is that you can do all sorts of amazing upfitting to it. There are some people that have done some incredible things to it, including making cargo vans, obviously. Now, adjusting the driver's seat inside of the Transit. Adjusting the driver's seat in the you're gonna get a free second set. No, now brown cow.